Alright, hi. Operation of the operating manual Gevo Evolution Series Diesel Electric Locomotive ES44. Alright, operation on power up. On power up display screen will not appear for up to 60 seconds. Locomotive operating display, auxiliary display, default screen, 1000 33 37 with human machine interface. Display defaults to the more menu screen 1000 1. All right, locomotive operating display. At the locomotive computers have been powered up, they are operating normally with the main operating screen 1000. Figure 33 will appear with a smart screen display with a black message will display operating message for the screen. Use to monitor operating staff of the locomotive. Many functions available to level 1 main operating screen and subscreen. More menus. Figure 34. Top row soft keys will be noted in FX, F1, or F through 8. Bottom row soft keys for the whole numbers 1 through 8. Key 1, air brake. Pressing the key will display the 2000 air brake setup operating procedure covered with electronic air brake section of this manual. Key F2, end of train. Pressing the key will display the 2100 end of train setup operating procedure covered in the end of the train section of this manual. F3, not applicable. F4, distributed power. When linked to the distributed power lever, the press locomotive operating screen 1000 will display 2310 distributed power menu. Automatically, the human machine interface display will be screened with 2300 distributed power operation. When unlike this key is visible on locomotive operating display, press the key to display the 2390 distributed power menu remote session. Refer to the pertinent section operating manual for operating procedure. Key 5 operator message. Press this key will display the 5001 operator message. Figure 32 operating procedure covered in operator message section of this manual. Key F6 speed control. Pressing this key will display the 1300 slow speed control menu. Operating procedures are covered in the slow speed control section of this manual. F7 switches. Pressing the key will display the 1000 switches operating procedure covered in the switching section of this manual. Key F8 not applicable. Alright, key 1. Distribute distance starting and stop and reset. Press the key to activate with the distance counter on the smart screen display. Soft key designator will change with the distance. Stop pressing distance stop. Cover the distance counter to stop counting. And keys to change distant reset. With the pressing the distant reset resets the distance counter to 0 preset values depending on the mode and the key distance. Key 2 distance setup. Pressing the key will display the 1200 distance counter speed. Operating procedure is covered in the distance counter section of this manual. Key 3 measured mile key displayed while moving. While the key will display 1100 measured mile, operating procedures are covered in the measured mile section of this manual. Key 3 auto start and stop key displayed while stopped and auto engine start and stop is activated. Press the key will display 4311 automatic engine start and stop status screen. Operating procedure covered in auto engine start and stop section of this manual. Key 4, 5, and 6 not applicable. Key 7 screen controls. Press the key display screen 3000 screen controls operating procedure covered in the screen controls section of this manual. Alright, key 8 more menu. Press the key and will display the 0000 1 main operating screen more. Key F1 event recorder. Pressing the key will display the 93300 event recorder shaft of the process for the scheme will allow the operator to view the current status event recorder view as listed of the parameters beginning record. F2 data download. Press the key will display the 9000 data download operating procedure covered in the data download section of the manual. Key F3 will adjust the parameters. Key position F3 with a human machine interface auxiliary only. Press the key to display the 9700 adjustable parameter. The purpose of the screen is to display the list of the parameters that are railroad modifiable. Key 4 F4 and F5 not available. Not applicable. Key F6 trip mounter human machine interface auxiliary only. Press the key will display 4500 trip monitor operating procedure covered in the trip monitor section of this manual. Key F7 will locomotive monitor. Press the key will display 4000 locomotive monitoring operating procedure covered in the locomotive monitoring section of this manual. Key F8 pressing the key will display screen 1 level the back of the 0000 main operating screen. Note that the human machine interface display. Pressing the F8 extra key will always display the screen 0000 main operating screen. Key 1 is statistics. Allow the operator to view locomotive life statistics. Pressing the key will display the 9200 statistics. Key 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 not applicable. Key 7 screen controls pressing the key will display with the 3000 screen controls. Operating procedures are covered in the screen controls section. It's manual. Key 8 not applicable. And it shows a picture of the monitor, your main operating screen, and a picture of your main operating screen. More menus. Main operating screen. Main operating screen. Main operating screen. Main operating screen. Alright, preparation for operation. The following checks and inspections should be made with accordance with railroad rules and regulation. Warning, stop ahead for the owner. No circumstantial for the trains which are permitted with the operation with the brake air pressure for the fall below 45 psi. If the section occurred with the train must be stopped with the brake pipe recharged with the railroad particular setting. With the failure to comply with this warning may result in the inability to control and stop the train before boarding. Locomotive inspect broken, worn, loose, or dragging parts, brake rigging, brake shoes, wheels, covers, etc. Check for leak to the outside pipe. Properly position all drain and air out, cut out cocks and trip pipe. Brake pipe cocks are properly positioned. Check for the proper connection for the air hose, jumper cable if the may multiple with the units for the check of the fully supply with the fuel tank sight glass. Item 5, figure 24. 7. Ensure that the dead engine cock is closed after boarding. While the engine shut down, remove the rags and tools from the moving parts of electrical equipment. Check for the diesel engine lubricating oil slip. So oil supply, oil level should be indicate the full oil dipstick for the engine shutdown pull or at the idle dipstick is located inside of the engine marked on the lower full. Warning: the surface of the air compressor on the local control circuit breaker is item 13, figure 9, to prevent the air compressor from starting motor driven. The air compressor as a hot surface that may operate with any time within the diesel engine is running. Do not surface the air compressor while the hot or diesel engine is running. Check the air compressor lubricating the locomotive equipped with the auto engine stop. The diesel engine may start without operator action. Exercise caution when working around the diesel engine traction alternator radiator cab. Ensure the auto engine start and stop is disabled. Avoid performing maintenance on the locomotive. Failure to do so may result in death, injury, serious injury to personnel. 4. Cooling. Check on the cooling water supply and ensure the water drain. Water valve is closed. Ensure the air compressor cutout cock is open. Ensure the air brakes are set up properly. And set up the air brake set up with the file with the operating function menu screen. Verify correctly the unit status. Also refer to the railroad operating procedure. Ensure unit is set up the lead unit with the proper feed set setting. Check the position. Automatic independent brake valve. The independent handle should be moved to the release position. Automatic handle in the continuous service position on all trailing units. Moving the engine control switch to start properly. Position the multiple unit headlight selector switch. You move the ensure the multiple unit shutdown toggle switch is located with the overhead console did not engage. Check with the combined handle, the idle power, reverse handle, and center. Starting the engine. Perform operation before boarding locomotive. After the boarding locomotive section listed previously. Note that the locomotive engine will not start with the main battery switch is open. Close the battery switch located behind the door under the engine control panel. Turn on and all circuit breaker with the engine on the engine control panel. Figure 9. Note on the power up with ensure the electronic air brake at the circuit breaker with the electronic control panel. Item 10, figure 9, as on power up penalty might occur. So move the brake handle with the suppression and hold for 8 seconds and then return the handle to release. Check the smart screen display for the status message. If the message light rings up, engine can't crank, engine won't start. Please wait. Power up in progress. The unit will not attempt to crank. To verify that the engine control switch is in the start position. Note when the starting engine is several locomotive, the multiple unit consider the starting engine once at a time. Cover the control circuit breaker at only one of the unit at a time while the engine is running. Cover the control circuit breaker on the lead unit on only and upon all others. Press the engine start, push down, and hold on the engine start in progress screen. Figure 9. 39 appear with the smart screen display. Only screen showing the page. The screen will disappear automatically once the engine is running. Alright, note the locomotive is equipped with an engine pre-lube function. The start of the diesel engine may take a slightly longer for the locomotive without this function. Following the event to take up during the engine start. Following pump start immediately with the engine start. Push buttons. Press the crank warning bell located with the auxiliary cab will sound for approximately 10 seconds. There will be the 5-10 second delay between the engine start button is pressed and the pre-loop pump starts to rotate. Pre-loop cycle is required by the control system. If the battery charging computer circuit breaker has been cycled, the locomotive has been shut down for more than 30 minutes. The diesel engine will receive a pre-loop cycle. If neither the conditions is true, the engine will crank immediately. Typical time for the engine pre-loop cycle is 1.5 minutes. Diesel engine will crank upon completion of the engine pre-loop cycle. The engine lubricating oil pressure does not build up the approximately 40 to 60 seconds. The control system will respectively follow. The engine will not crank if the proper parameters are met with the control system will retry to crank the engine. And show your engine start processing screen. Caution not discharge of the bear. Successfully repeated attempts to start. If the first 2 or 3 times are unsuccessful, recheck the starting procedure. 7. Check the diesel engine lubricating oil supply. Oil level should be at the full on the dipstick and the engine with the engine at idle. The dipstick located on the side of the engine near the lubricating oil fill with the marks lower. Full warning: the locomotive is equipped with the auto engine start. Stop. The diesel may start without operator action. Exercise caution when working around the diesel engine traction alternator radiator cab. Ensure the auto engine start and stop is disabled before performing any maintenance on the locomotive. Failure to do so may result in the death or serious injury. Alright, cold weather engine startup warm-up. During the cold weather, when the locomotive is shut down, the period of time when the locomotive horsepower automatically be derated until the lubricating oil temperature reaches with the predetermined level. A special warming-up period is required to avoid equipment failure with the thermal overload train with the safeguards, alerters, and shutdown section of this manual. Alright, charging a train. The following procedure to charge the train bring the pressure for the air reservoir after they have been drained. Leave the generator fuel circuit breaker in the off position, the engine control switch in the run position. Close the control circuit breaker, insert the reverse handle, place it in center position, move the combined power handle to notch 1, the air compressor speed is twice the engine speed when the engine speed is below 525 RPMs. Note if the main reserve air pressure is above 130 psi is not rising, increasing the engine speed will not raise the pressure. Before moving the locomotive, turn the engine control switch to run, check with the main reserve air according to the railroad operating procedure, make the independent air brake application, move the aim of the blocking wheels, verify the release indicator, light item 5 of the figure 40 is on the electronic parking brakes control panel. Figure 40 is located within the B crew side of the locomotive above the platform on the side of the radiator cave. Visually inspect the brakes of the rear truck with the conform that they are released as verified by the handbrake. Not released light item in 28 figure 9 is the off engine control handle. Check with the electronic parking brake control panel section of this manual for further information. For allow the engine cooling water to warm up before you the locomotive in accordance with the railroad operating procedure. Also review the safeguard alert shutdown section of this manual. Check the smart display screen if any fault messages message line should be ready. Ensure the end of the train with the function is properly set. Please press the soft key with the F2 with the end of the train found for the main operating section. Figure 33 file with the instructions. Alright, warning: stopping here. Prior to the train move with the brake application relief of the leakage just must be performed with the railroad specified brake pipe pressure for the entire train. The brake line to be operated open through the train. Like leakage observed noted must be with a specified permitted limits of 5 psi per regulation. And once the acceptable leakage rate is obtained, no manual adjustments are made with the alter the running brake pipe pressure setting while the training is in terminal standing still. Failure to comply with this procedure could result in inability to control and stop the train. Alright, 7. Perform the air brake departure test in accordance with the railroad operating procedure. Operate with the brake pipe leakage test for the UV the airflow indicator gauge testing procedure is followed. Within the brake pipe with the brake pipe test and fully check with the smart screen electronic air brake set up the screen with the lead and cut in with the move of the automatic brake handle properly with the toe with the full position equalizing reservoir pressure that has reduced 15 psi is noted with the display screen. Then stop the lead with the handle in this position. Assume the brake pipe pressure has reduced the level of the equalizing reservoir pressure continues below the brake of the valve of the exhaust and flow is stable with the 60 psi change with the screen. The cutoff position immediately observe the brake pipe gauge with the smart screen display. Time of the pressure drops in accordance with the railroad rules and regulation. At the completion of the brake pipe test for the leakage, move the automatic brake handle further toward the full position. Reduce the equalizing reservoir pressure slightly with 2 psi. Bring it below the brake pipe pressure with the watch for the decrease of the smart screen display. Brake pipe may be later released. Return the automatic brake handle with the release position. Return the system to the lead and cut in mode. The locomotive is not ready for operation. The locomotive is now ready for operation. Note, if the power of the control brake system is lost in the following occurs, the alarm bell will ring, the power cutoff switch will open and interrupt the locomotive power. Dynamic braking operation will be effective per the railroad operation procedure. The locomotive will go into a penalty brake situation. Brake cylinder pressure will develop at 68 psi maximum. The independent brake control will not function well off the locomotive with effect of the railroad operating procedure. The operator may reset with the failure with the toggling air brake computer circuit breaker with the engine control panel. If the unit with the trailing unit also note that the following bail off is still some permitted reapplication limited to further reductions in the brake pipe pressure. If there is no change in the air brake powered or dynamic braking condition, independent brake will apply with release for the command by the lead unit limited to the air A and R brake pipe pressure. Warning: locomotive power law for the control brake system occur with the train is in system full service brake application automatically made as a service rate with the brake pressure drops below 13 psi, operator may initiate the emergency brake application. Emergency brake located with the crew member's desk. Warning: stop head. If the following emergency brake application for the train is not reset with the brake with the relief, it must be the attempted event. Any movement that is automatic brake handle with the release for the train is moving to make up the equipment damage and personal injury. Alright, moving a train from the close generator field circuit breaker, item 2, figure 8, with a move with the reverse hand with the desired direction of the movement. 3. Release the brake complete with a note that the brake charge the engaged screen with the mark with the flag with the locomotive speed greater than 10 miles an hour. The brake charge is greater than 3 psi with the locomotive speed is greater than 10 miles an hour. The brake charge is greater than 10 psi. The alarm bell will ring continuously until the reset. The reset is accomplished by releasing the brake charge pressure. Caution: inconsistent with the compromise of the auto engine start with about wait 240 seconds after the movement. Reverser handle before moving the combined power handle with the pause allows them that may have been shut down the automatic auto engine start and stop. The start of the diesel failure to do so may result in the alarms and the faults will prevent the consisting of the load. For advanced combined power handle with the combined power handle with the head of the notch idle over the up to the notch. Each of the successive notch representing the increase of the power of the locomotive traffic effort. Alright, starting a train depends on the type of the length of the width of the graded condition of the rail and the amount of the slack in the train. The locomotive is designed to have easily controlled track of the effort built up with the character of the track after each of the notch limited to finite value of the combined power of the handle move to the lowest and high notch for the operator with can easily control the amount of the traffic effort with the recorder to start with accelerate the particular train so to speak cannot be controlled as desired, reducing the increase of the combined power handle position. Starting a train. Move the combined power handle to the idle with the apply with the dynamic braking air brake according with the railroad operating procedure. Apply the dynamic braking found later in the section of the manual. If leaving the operating position has been dropped, move the reverser handle to the center. Caution: the control system of the locomotive delay application for the dynamic braking if the locomotive does not have the failure to prevent the equipment damage when changing the power of the dynamic brake. The dynamic braking power into power causes 10 seconds of the combined power handle idle. Alright, reversing locomotive. Bring the locomotive full stop. Move the reverse handle to the opposite direction. Release the brakes to the combined power handle. Stop the engine. Move the combined power handle to idle, causing the automotive. After the locomotive engine operated with the full load, will allow the engine to run at idle at least 5 minutes before shutting down. Otherwise, immediately shut down after such operation could be harmful to so much engine components. Open the generator field circuit breaker. Move the engine control switch to start and press the engine stop button, push button of the engine control panel to shut down all engines in the multiple unit operation. Use the multiple unit and shutdown toggle switch located in the overhead console. Note: some of the older units with this will not turn off the fuel pumps, but pushing the stop button on each until the will turn them off. Secure the locomotive in accordance with the railroad rule procedure. Before leaving the locomotive, release the air brakes after uncoupling the train. Apply with the electric air brake as follows. Observe the established the railroad safety precautions valve with electronic parking brake. The instruction: carefully keep clear of the active brake. Rigging serve the personal injury with equipment damage may occur with the electronic parking brake if apparently within properly applied. A. Make a full independent brake application to verify the electronic braking switch. Apply for the apply button on the braking park control panel located with the radiator cab. Visually inspect the parking brake chain with the tightness. Verify the proper brake shoe with the wheel contact. The parking brake can be applied manually if it does not respond with the electronic application procedure. Further, the parking brake control in section on page 81 of this manual. Leave the combined power on idle. Close the windows and the doors. Open all switches. Circuit breakers are described in the control console. Open the engine control panel. Paragraph located on operating equipment section of this panel. Open the battery switch. In freezing weather, precautions must be taken and see that the cooling water does not freeze. See the drain cooling water system. Paragraph found in the other equipment section of this manual. Follow the railroad rules in the situation. Cautions of freezing weather conditions. Ensure that the toilet is properly drained. If the locomotive is shut down with an extended period of time, failure to do so result in frozen pipe damage to the toilet. Safety control after the penalty brake application has occurred. The normal locomotive operating is restored in the following manner. Move the combined power handle to idle. Move the automatic brake handle to suppression. Move at least 8 seconds for the move of the automatic brake handle. Release when ready. Dynamic braking operation. Dynamic braking is applied with the locomotive only, not to the train. Applying the dynamic braking is done by the following: combined power handle to idle. Move the combined power handle to the setup position. Move a pause, then advance the combined power into the braking cycle that is desired. After the select is pressed, manipulate the combined power handle until the desired braking effect is obtained. Observe the correct braking effort during the initial period of the dynamic braking application. Amount of the braking effort obtained with the various for the position with the combined power handle with the various speed. Maximum braking effort is obtained full braking position at 20 miles an hour. Note: wheel Slip warning may occur while dynamic braking. This indicates if the wheels are sliding. Sanding is applied with the automatically wheel sliding unit. When the warning continues to reduce the dynamic braking handle the position. Use the air brake. During dynamic brake, when the brakes only pressure is greater than 13 psi, the dynamic braking effort is decreased the amount with the reduction depending on the locomotive speed at 20 miles an hour approximately or above. There's no decrease in dynamic braking effort below 20 miles an hour. Dynamic braking is reduced. The locomotive is reduced to a minimum dynamic braking effort of 0 miles per hour. When necessary, the automatic air brake may be used in conjunction with the dynamic brake. Automatic air brakes will apply with the trains that have been on the locomotive. The dynamic brake releases the dynamic brake move with the combined power of the handle with the opposition. Operating as a lead unit to operate the locomotive as the lead unit consists of the first minutes and make the necessary with the preliminary preparation for the operation, then proceed as follows. Refer to the electronic air brake section of this manual air brake setup as more information is needed. Air brake equipment to set up the move of the automatic brake handle with the continuous service position. Move the independent brake handle to the full position. Test for the air brake in accordance with the railroad rules. Electrical setup. Unclosed for the generator field control circuit breaker with the control circuit breaker must be closed on the lead unit only. With the closed for the dynamic braking circuit breaker, close all circuit breaker with the engine control panel figure 9. Move the multiple unit setup switch to the required headlight setup switch to the required position. Item 15 figure 9. But if insert the reverse handle into the controller, move the desired direction. Operate the locomotive in accordance with the railroad operating rules. Alright, operating as a trailing unit. Refer to the electronic air brake section of this manual for the air brake setup. For more information is needed. Air equipment setup. Move with the full surface applicate for the automatic brake handle. Move the automatic brake handle with the continuous surface position. Place the independent brake handle in the release position. Electrical setup. Move the reverse handle with the center position. Move the handle. Operate with the generator field control. The dynamic braking circuit breakers on the control console. Follow the instruction for the setting of the circuit breakers operating with the lead unit as a trailing unit. The instructor appear with a label with the engine control panel. Place multiple headed set up switch with the proper position. Item 15, figure 9. Change the operating ends. Change the operating control of the cap one locomotive of the unit to the other. Proceed as follows. Vacant unit air equipment setup and make a full surface brake application. Allow the time the air blowing sounds to stop. Smart screen display gauge will read 64 to 67, and then the smart screen display screen is set up with the unit with the trail. Play for the automatic brake handle with the continuous surface position. Play for the independent brake valve in the handle in the release position. Vacant unit in the electrical setup. Move the reverse handle in the center of the move of the handle to open the generator field control dynamic circuit breakers on the control circuit console. Follow the instruction for the setting circuit breaker for the operating with the lead unit, the trailing unit. The instruction appear with the label with the engine control panel and play for the multiple unit headlight switch in the proper position. Operating unit air equipment electrical setup. Set up the air brake for the electrical equipment and the operating unit with the described operating as the lead unit. Air equipment setup. Electrical equipment setup paragraphs in this section of the manual. To operate with the other types of units. The locomotive is equipped with the traction motor thermal simulator that computes the traction motor temperatures. Simulator will reduce locomotive output that is required to protect the traction motors. If the units of the locomotive specifically geared to the different maximum speed, do not run with the speeds excessive of the recommended, but the unit having the lowest maximum permissible speed. Similarly, do not operate with the low speed with long enough to exceed the specified traction motor ratings on any of the units in the locomotive consists. Locomotive with a high horsepower per axle will develop with more attractive after any given the speed, while the units of lower horsepower per axle will therefore tend to overload sooner at lower speeds. Deadheading and dead-end train. Caution: to avoid equipment damage is properly set up with the locomotive with a hung dead-end train. Place in the independent brake handle with the release position. Automatic brake handle with the handle off with the continuous service position. In function with the air brake set with the trail in the trail cutout position. Open electronic air brake circuit breaker with item 10 figure 9. Caution: to avoid wheel flaps. The drain may reserve a unit with less than 25 psi. Move the engine cock with the final with the electro-pneumatic control unit or to the end. Connect with the brake pipe hoses to the on the other end of the locomotive. Electric power braking control panel over manual override. The parking brake with the control panel with the manual over handbrake wheel are located on the B or the crew side of the locomotive, then platform on the other side of the radiator. The four indicators show the staff of the parking brake system. Also, all items below the listed in figure 40 unless indicated. 1. The power. This is indicated in item 1 with the powers available. Apply the indicators. Item 2 will be lit when the parking brake is applied. Apply switch. Item 3, pressing the switch apply with the parking brake. Release the switch. Item 4, pressing the switch relief the parking brake. 5, relief the indicator. Relief the indicator. Item 5 is lit when the parking brake is lit. Manual mode. The indicator. Item 6 is lit when the parking brake system in this manual mode must be operated with a hand wheel. Warning: illuminated indicator light does not guarantee that the handbrake is fully applied. But the operator must verify that the handbrake is properly applied with the lead in the locomotive unattended to the per railroad operating procedure. The brake is electrically operated with the set push button switches. 3 and 4, the brake is activated with the push. They apply item 3 with the release. Item 4 with the 1 second of relief. The 1 brake is activated with the apply with the control system. Automatically shuts down the brake once the full brake headset has been reached during the relief. The automatic control shut off. Brake when the brake chain is fully released. The brake can be stopped at any time with the pressing the apply release switch for the less than a half a second. Power of the brake unit control with the circuit breaker switch located with the operator cab. The circuit breaker should normally be left on position. The breaker should only be turned off if the locomotive is in the shop repair. There is technical problems with the brake unit. This shows your electrical parking brake control, power manual mode, release, apply, and press switches 1 second and 3 and 4. This shows your manual handbrake wheel. Alright, on initial power with apply release items of the 2 and 5 may alter the flash signal with the brake of the unit that may not be fully applied with the full release to the play for the brake in the no position. Press and hold the apply of the release button for 1 second and relieve the activate of the brake. Allow for the brake to reach the desired position. Power light item 1 with the intent of the operator with the brake unit. The active the light should continuously when brake unit is power with the power light begin flashing. Is not illuminated. The system has detected the internal fault with the internal fault with the defect with the brake fail with the initial output during the power up with the remove and then apply with the power with the circuit breaker switch. Item 26 of figure 9. If cycling the power does not clear with the fault with the circuit breaker should be turned off the tag tab of the brake unit. It should then be operated with the standard manual mode. But then until the repair with the made with the next qualified service facility. Chain with the brake for the auto to manual mode. The pull the knob with the selector handle with the figure 4-1 to rotate the handle with the manual position. Verify the selector handle with the knob is in full engage. If the handle becomes difficult to engage, rotate the handle 180 degrees with the re-engage the left of the manual indicator. Item 6 for the illuminating with the handbrake wheel is turned with the clockwise with the ratchet type of its resistance until the brake shoe lock against the wheels. To release the brake counter hand with the wheel counterclockwise, loosening with the brake linkage with the ram and south with the actuator screw with the reach with the until a slight resistance is felt. Do not overforce the wind releasing the brake. When we return, select your hand with the all position manual light with the temporary slave eliminated until the internal jig gear linings. Press hold and apply release button to activate the brake with the manual light with the turn off the brake. Remain with the functional auto mode until the select your handle is again chained with the return of the auto mode with the handbrake wheel spins freely with no resistance. Alright, warning. Observe all the established railroad safety precautions with the electrical power braking, parking brake with the intro the care clearly clear of the active brake rig when the shear of the personal injured equipment damage may occur with the electronic parking being inadvertently and improperly applied. Caution: electrical parking must be displayed with the power main with the U of the manual with the handbrake of the plane. The brake is applied manually. Rotate with the handbrake until the brake shoes are firmly seated on the wheels. Warning: the operator must verify the handbrake is fully released on all locomotives prior to the motoring per railroad operating procedures. Alright, then we're on, and they show this over. It means we're probably changing chapters. Alright, locomotive operation by smart screen display.